Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley. I'm joined tonight by Liam White to discuss this weekend's games and some stories in Gaelic games over the last few days. There is a lot to discuss indeed. Shout out to our sponsors first, Capture Athletics. If you want to basically your own, check them out if you haven't already. So yeah, Liam, an interesting weekend in store, obviously, across all grades, obviously. The lower tier hurling competitions are coming to an end now. There's only one semi-final, and that has its controversy in its own right. We'll get onto that once we get to that particular game. But how are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad, Matthew. Not too bad. Thanks for having me on again. Appreciate it. We still have nice weather. Probably will be coming to an end this weekend, just to get it off on a nice note to remind people. But not too bad. It's nice that we still have the nice weather and plenty of games to look forward to this weekend, and could be a historical night in GA circles as well, given a certain congress that's going on. So looking forward to jumping into it.
That's exactly it. And Liam did mention a certain congress going on. The camogie motion for the skirt and shorts controversy is going on as we're recording this live. So once the result does come in, and I'm on my tabs, Liam's on his tabs as well, we will see if the results goes through once we get live. I actually have RTJ and Sinead Farrell from the 42 actually on tweet notifications right now. So we'll see what happens in terms of that. But for now, we'll focus on the games, and we'll start off at the Munster Senior Hurling Championship this weekend. There is one real game. We'll get on to Limerick and Clare just a bit. But starting off the main one, Cork against Waterford in the Munster Hurling Championship, obviously from Super Valley Park Keefe on Sunday at 4 p.m. live on RTE2. And I suppose Waterford have to win this game. The permutations are pretty simple in this one, more simplistic than last season. Waterford have to win this game to get through to the All-Ireland series. For Cork, if they win the game, they're in the Munster final. If they draw the game, they're in the All-Ireland preliminary quarter-final against the Joe McDonagh Cup team. And if they lose, they're out of the championship. Pretty simplistic there. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's. I think it goes without saying this is Cork's biggest game of the season, and at all costs they need to avoid a defeat. Given the fact that most people, including myself, backed this Cork team to win an All-Ireland this year, if they were to go out before the Munster Championship final or the All-Ireland series, then just quite simply it will be a disaster from that perspective. Pat Ryan needs his side to perform here, and they need a massive improvement from the performance against Limerick, which was probably their worst performance we've seen in a long time, to be honest. Like, even given, say, you saw even the games that they lost last year, okay, they were below par against Waterford, but they were still ultra competitive again, and it was the same against Clare in both matches. Whereas this one, they just weren't competitive at all, so they really need to improve on that this weekend. The rumours, obviously, of what the team will be, given how some players looked a small bit uncomfortable after last weekend. Obviously, the team will be out in about 2 hours or something like that, so we'll learn more a bit then. You have Niall O'Leary and Decky Dalton that'll be out, so what does Pat Ryan do? Does Seamus Harnedy come in? I thought he did very well when he came in last weekend. Diarmuid Healy, do you give him a chance? Brian Roach was the first sub on against Limerick, so do you bring him in from the start? Does Cahalane come in? Does Micheál Mullins get a chance and drop somebody else back? Is Robert Downey fit to start? So I suppose, the starting 15 selection will be interesting to observe. I suppose for Waterford, again, it's a huge opportunity for them that awaits them here. Rolled off at the start of the season, quite simply, and including, again, by myself and probably some other people as well. Everyone in the GA world probably felt that, just given their record in the round robin series over the last number of years, that things wouldn't be any different this time around. And I suppose some people might have looked at, say, them being in Division 1B as well, thinking, did they get enough competitive games to be able to compete with the teams in Munster? And now, a couple of weeks later, we're 70 minutes away from an All-Ireland preliminary quarter final for them and knocking out their neighbours, which would ironically knock out the previous two All-Ireland finalists, which would be quite something before the end of May. But they will really be looking on the back of that defeat to Tipperary last weekend and feeling regret. They started off strong, but after their shooting was extremely poor in the first half. Once Tip got a foothold of the game, then their running game and attack was just too much for Queely's side. They would, though, have watched how Limerick played against Cork and the poor marking and skill used to beat them, and will need to try and emulate that type of performance. I do feel, though, that Cork, given that they are at home in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, if this game was in Walsh Park, then there'd be a big chance for Waterford to cause an absolute upset here. But with the record at Páirc Uí Chaoimh is good, and Waterford do know how to beat Cork. Like I said, evidence last year, but you would expect a response to last weekend. like they simply cannot be as bad as they were last Sunday, because if they are, then really it's going to be a short summer. And after winning the league and after getting so close last year, that's not what Cork need right now.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be a very interesting game, obviously. And Sean has commented in here, Cork need to win this game, but also with a convincing performance to really bounce back from last week. Waterford will be a good game, though their style are more suited to Cork than Limerick. And Waterford should be a very difficult opponent, obviously. They know how to beat Cork, as Liam mentioned there. Just as we started the podcast, the camogie motion has passed. The shorts can be worn this weekend at the camogie games. Well, what we're going to do is going to discuss the Munster Championship games first, and then we'll get to that story. So that is breaking news from Sinead Farrell on Twitter. Back to the game with Cork and Waterford. A lot of Cork people have been talking on podcasts in previous weeks. I think everybody would know who they are, without me explaining or anything like that. That the Limerick game was a game where Cork supposedly tanked, and the fact that they're going to this Waterford game, seeing as Cork are kind of favourites going into this, and a lot of people would say that the Limerick game didn't matter as much, and then the game to tank right now is the Munster Championship in the group stage, not later on down the summer. But then again, if Cork lose to Waterford this weekend, there'll be a lot of eggs on people's faces over those comments, obviously. But yeah, Waterford have a lot of a point to prove, in fairness, considering the commentary around Cork and their performance last week. Some people saying that the game really didn't matter against Limerick last week. Others saying that Cork really didn't turn up. A lot of people are not talking about Waterford. Does that suit Waterford in a way, Liam?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, look, the game was important last weekend. Every game in the championship is important, regardless of what round it is or what's going on. I know even some games that are taking place this weekend are dead rubbers, essentially. You know, you look at Wexford, Kilkenny, you look at Limerick, Clare, they're essentially dead rubbers. But there's also, more than anything, there's pride in these counties, or at least you'd certainly hope there is, from a perspective of you have people going to these matches who are paying lots and lots of money to go to these matches as well. Like, they're not cheap. It's not cheap to go to GAA matches now, especially if you were to bring a family with you, or if you're going with relatives or friends. It's not cheap, I can tell you that. I've been to every Offaly game this year, and it's not been cheap, I can tell you that, to even go to those games. And the Leinster Championship games are, like, realistically, they're a lot cheaper than what the Munster Championship games are. So you can only imagine how much money people are losing out on going to those games. So for some people in the media to be saying that the games aren't as important, I think is wrong. I think every game is as important as the other. In the context and the grand scheme of things, in the end, people might say the result doesn't matter. I'd rather people said the result might not matter in a couple of months if, say, Cork were to win the All-Ireland or to get to the final, or if they won the Munster final in a couple of weeks, then that's okay. But to say the games don't matter, I think that's completely wrong. But with Waterford, yeah, it probably might suit them. You saw what happened to Limerick last weekend when they weren't talked about as much. They kind of went under the radar over the last number of weeks, which you would wonder, considering they've won 4 All-Irelands in the last, they've won 5 All-Irelands in 7 years. They're on the brink of winning 7 Munster titles in a row, and of some, like, arguably now some of the greatest players to ever play the game and one of the best managers of all time. So that suited them down to the ground, and it might suit Waterford as well, and with the fact that a lot of people, including myself, have kind of wrote them off for the championship and probably felt that they weren't as strong as the other sides in Munster. Since then, they've gone on and beaten Clare. They put up a good performance. I still felt they put up an okay performance against Limerick. And then obviously, look, last weekend, they would have felt was a hugely missed opportunity. They hit a lot of wides in that game. Probably their style of play didn't suit playing against that Tipperary side. And yeah, they're going into this weekend really up against it. And what will be a packed Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. It will be a sellout. It'll be a sea of red everywhere. So it probably does suit them down to the ground. But at the same time, I think it won't make that much of a difference in the end. Come this weekend, I still think Cork will have enough. They need a response massively. And I feel like, look, Waterford, they won Division 1B, they topped it, they've gone back up to Division 1A, and they've done better this year than even some people probably felt they would have, or they've been a bit more competitive than what people felt they would have been. And yeah, I feel like the scrutiny for Cork, say, if they were to go out, would be far greater than it will be for Waterford. So I feel like it might suit them down to the ground not to be talked about as much, but at the same time, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference come 4 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah, it should be a very interesting game, obviously, to see what kind of Cork team does turn up. And you mentioned at the start of the show there, Decky Dalton and Niall O'Leary are out through injuries. And You were saying that Dave McCallum might come in, Joe Millerick might come in as well, a cornerback. Should be very interesting to see that kind of standpoint. With Dickie Dalton out, Seamus Hartley probably is definitely back in the team, and he scored 2 points off the bench against Limerick the last day. To be honest, I was actually shocked that he was dropped for the Limerick game. But other than Patrick Horgan, he was the only guy to score more than 1 point. That probably is a sad indictment maybe on Cork in terms of the rest of the team's performances. But with him back in the team, it looks like he's going to be back in the team now with Dickie out. Is that going to be a boost to Cork even more?
Well, you have experience there, and Seamus been around the block for long enough, and he is a terrific player. You know, he's definitely one of the best players to never win in All Ireland. You know, and he's been a real driving force in the half forward line for Cork for a number of years. And yet, look, I suppose this weekend you do need that little bit of experience and those types of players who've been around the block long enough to know how to go about their business. And like you said, he made a good impact when he came on last weekend, got 2 good points, took one. I wouldn't say bad hit. I don't think there was any maliciousness behind it, but took 1 hit off Cian Lynch, but won a free from there. You know, he looked lively. You know, he looked a bit livelier than some of the players were on the pitch for Cork. So you're hoping that he can produce some of that again this weekend. As much as I'd love to be seeing the likes of Dermot Healy maybe get a chance here, maybe this weekend, just with what's at stake. Had Cork beaten Limerick and they were already in the Munster final, it might have been the perfect opportunity to bring in someone like him, or bring Cormac O'Brien back in, or try some Micheál Mullins, or try some of them. But just given how much is at stake this weekend, you probably need to go with your experienced heads. But yeah, Decky's a massive miss, you know, just for his long free taking, his brilliant striking of the ball, his strength, his pace, and his goal threat as well. Like when he gets a chance and sniffs a chance at goal, he's going to take it 9 times out of 10. So, and Cork as well will need, like by the 23rd or 24th minute last weekend, they had 2 points from play, which, given the talent that Cork have and the players that they do have at their disposal, is definitely not good enough. And Pat Ryan will know that straight away. You know, you look at the players that they do have scattered across the forward line. They're some of the best players in the country. And any given day, they can destroy you. You know, so that's something that they'll massively need to work on. They could have 3 points from play after 5 minutes on Sunday. That's the thing. Like they are that good of a team that they could do that, or they could have a goal within 2 minutes. You know, they're just that good of a team that they can do something like that. But they're going to need to do that from the get-go this weekend in order to get the win.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we probably both predict Cork to win the game and eventually get to the Munster final as it all ends up. But just, I feel like we're mentioning a lot of Cork at the moment. We have to mention Waterford. To be in this position for a second year running, I know a lot of people would have expected them to be in this position. But at the same time, is there an argument to say that Waterford need to get out of Munster sooner rather than later? Because last year, a lot of people didn't expect them to go to the last round of Munster. They ultimately fell short. The same will repeat again. How long will that have to happen before we have to say that Waterford have to get out of Munster?
Oh, well, they have to get out of Munster. There's no question about that. Like the only times they've gotten out of Munster to a degree in the last 10 years or so have been through the back doors when we had COVID, and obviously in 2017 when they reached the final. Like they lost to, correct me if I'm wrong, was it Clare they lost in 2017? Wasn't it Clare and Cork in the 2017 Munster final? So like every time they've gotten to, and like through the back doors, they've been excellent, because 17 and 20 they got to the All-Ireland final, 2021 they got to an All-Ireland semi-final and were beaten by Limerick, who were absolutely on fire that year. So the round robin series, they've not been good in it at all. They've barely picked up any wins over the years in it. They've massively struggled in it. And yeah, it's disappointing to see, because Waterford have an array of talent across their squad. And when you have a club like Ballygunner as well, who, in my opinion, have underwhelmed in a way over the last number of years. Obviously, look, 11 Waterford titles in a row is nothing to be batting an eyelid over, or, you know, winning 3 Munsters in a row, getting to another final was brilliant, and winning the All-Ireland was fantastic. But people still feel like they've underperformed to a degree, and that's kind of resonated with the Waterford senior hurlers now over the last couple of years. They've had their chances. They had their chance last year. That Tipperary draw completely ruined their season. Well, they went, possibly the Clare game maybe, but just for momentum after beating Cork, and then to lose out on, it felt like a loss against Tipperary, and then that sideline, that 65, which probably maybe wasn't a 65 against Clare, just their luck completely went against them last year as well. And then they had it all to do going to the Gaelic grounds to try and get a result. So no, they have to get out eventually, because like every one of these teams has gotten out. Like as much as we mentioned, say, Tipperary's record in the round robin series, they won the All Ireland in 2019 through the round robin series. Limerick have won the All Ireland. Clare have won the All Ireland. Cork have been to the All Ireland final. They've all found benefits through the round robin series. Waterford haven't done that yet, and they're going to have to change that sooner rather than later. If it comes this weekend, brilliant. They can build on from there. But if they don't, then really it's going to be another frustrating summer for Peter Creeley and for Waterford. And yeah, they're just going to have to go again next year and try and make something different out of it. But given how Cork are at the moment, how Limerick are, they're not going away anytime soon. And the momentum that Tipperary are building, especially after winning the Munster Under-20 title as well, could potentially win the All-Ireland. And the squad that they have coming through, Clare's injuries problems this year, it'd be hard to know when Waterford could exactly get out.
Yeah, exactly. It should be very interesting to see how Waterford do progress in the next few seasons, but we are both predicting Cork to win this game and progress to the Munster final. Obviously, a lot of comments rolling in about the camogie motion, but we will get to that. Hold your patience, lads. We will talk about the other Munster Championship games first, and then we'll get on to the camogie motion and react to the news. This game is Limerick against Clare on Sunday at 4 p.m. It's not live anywhere, which is, I don't know what way anybody would think about that, but it is essentially a dead rubber. Limerick are more or less in the Munster final. Well, they are in the Munster final. Clare are out of the championship altogether. There's rumours murmuring Limerick will actually play a B or C team, and a lot of rotation will take place. We don't know what will happen with Clare. Will they just throw in the towel? Will they end on a high in terms of the Ireland? We're not sure. But just because this game is more so a dead rubber, Liam, we didn't think it would be a dead rubber, obviously, or early doors in the championship. But just give the prediction, first of all. And second of all, we'll talk a bit about Clare, because we won't talk about them until gradings at the end of the year, because they are out of the championship. Is this a bad year for Clare, more or less? Obviously, we're defending the All-Ireland crowd this year. They've only won one game in 2025 so far. That could change, obviously, on Sunday. But has this been a bad year for the defending All-Ireland champions?
And ironically, that one win was against Limerick in the Gaelic grounds, which, when you think of it, like, it's not a bad win to have, especially if you are from Clare and given the rivalry there. But straight up, it's been a terrible year. Yeah, no, Brian Lohan will admit that. Clare supporters will admit that. Yes, they've had the likes of Shane O'Donnell out. They've had Conor Cleary out for games. Tony Kelly missed the Waterford game through illness. And they've had their problems. Aidan McCarthy, the problems off the field with that, whether he left the panel, obviously put that tweet out saying that he would have lined out if he was asked to or whatever. But like, just in terms of defending their title, it's been a very, very poor year from Clare. There's no point saying otherwise. They were relegated to Division 1B. Like, some of their performances as well have not been good enough. Losing, like, their performance against Galway in Pearse Stadium in the league, not good enough. At home to Wexford, not good enough. You know, they went to Tipperary in the league again, lost it late on, which wouldn't have been good for them, conceding 6 at home to Cork. You know, and look, they pulled off a great comeback against Cork in the championship, absolutely. But you didn't see their game against Waterford, and really that comeback meant nothing in the end, really, to be honest with you, you know, other than stopping Cork from winning a game. So, no, and to ship 4 goals in, what was it, the first 15, 20 minutes against Tipperary, just simply not good enough. No matter, yes, you can have your injury problems, but if you're the All-Ireland champions, then you cannot be doing that, no matter who you're playing against. So, no, it's been a very poor season from Clare. They'll admit that themselves. Whether Brian Lohan will be there next year or not, we'll have to wait and see. He's won the All-Ireland, which, listen, he'll be remembered forever for that. I feel, though, Clare will regret not winning a Munster title over the last number of years, considering they lost 3 finals in a row as well. 2 of them on very close encounters. Another one, just Limerick were much better than them on the day last year. But yeah, no, it's been a very, very poor year from Clare. And to be honest, even if Limerick were to put out a mixture of A, B, and C teams, I think they'll beat Clare this weekend. I think Clare, look, they're going against Limerick. They'll want to put up their best. Absolutely, they will. They won't want to end the season on an absolute whimper, and they would love it to just end the year beating Limerick, even if it meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. But the way Limerick are hurling at the moment, even like, you could put out a Limerick B team and you're still putting out some strong players. You're putting out like, injuries are not just, say, for the moment. You take Limerick's team last weekend, you then think, right, well, who could they possibly bring in if everyone's fit? Declan Hannon, Seamus Flanagan, Darragh O'Donovan, you know, Shane Dowling or Jason Gallan could go and goal. You know, like Barry Murphy wasn't in there last weekend. Colin Coughlin wasn't in there. like you've so many Cathal O'Neill, Peter Casey, like that's so many incredible players. Like Limerick's beating could probably win the All Ireland, to be honest with you, which is the frightening thing, to be honest. So no, I think Limerick will win this game. They're at home as well, and they'll want to finish off the year by probably burying Clare, to be honest with you. So no, I see no problem for Limerick this weekend. Strange enough that it isn't on TV, but I suppose when it is a dead rubber, then probably eyes will be on Cork and Waterford more so I could probably understand it from that perspective.
Exactly. So, and there might be a few disappointed fans from Limerick and Clare that actually can't make the game. But I see some things on social media during the week that Clare fans were actually selling their tickets back and just selling them on stories and Instagram. So, or selling them on tweets as well. So, yeah, I think there might be a case that it won't necessarily be a full house at the Gaelic grounds this weekend either. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, obviously. But yeah, I'd say Limerick will win the game and try to continue their momentum as well. So we'll get on to Leinster in just a sec. But news obviously came in, breaking news obviously with the Camogie Association and the motion for the skirts and the shorts. And great news. Camogie Congress, the short skirts motion has passed. 98% of the delegates have approved this rule for the players to have the choice between the skirts and the shorts. 2% disapproved. So that is an absolutely brilliant result for everybody involved, obviously. And this is the tweet from Sinead Farrell I'll bring up here from the 42. Camogie players will be permitted to wear shorts following an overwhelming vote in favour of the choice at Special Congress this evening in Croke Park. 98% in favour, 2% against. Your live reactions there, Liam. Obviously, it's a great result.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's ridiculous that it's taken this long, but it's brilliant that it's finally passed. And look, over the last number of weeks, it's been brilliant to see every woman across the country who plays camogie taking a stance and simply saying we want change, and that it has to be our choice, and that's that. Like it's not fair on women playing camogie that their biggest fear after a game should realistically be their performance or a result or maybe things that didn't go well on the pitch. Their biggest worry after a game should not be, photographs that could go online or videos that elapse on a game, and yourself. Like, that's not fair on them, and nobody wants to be seeing that either. Like, that's not fair on them. That's not fair on coaches. It's not fair on management. It's not fair on anybody. So I'm delighted to see that this has passed. I'd be wondering to see who the 2% were that didn't pass this. I'd be very curious to know that, to be honest with you. I thought this would go through with flying colours, but no, listen, fair play to everyone and every player and everyone associated in the camogie circles over the country over the last number of weeks for standing up and getting this motion passed. It's just brilliant now that we can get back to discussing, the actual games and not this whole issue, to be honest with you. Like, it's great that we can get back to talking about the Cork players, the Kilkenny players, Offaly players, just everyone across the country. And yeah, no, finally this is put to bed. They should have been allowed to wear shorts or wear whatever they want, really, in that regard over the last number of years. It's the fact that it's taken till 2025 is crazy, to be honest with you. And look, this could be a vote which is made by the Camogie Association, which just kind of maybe papers over cracks or something like that. But I do think it is a good move. Yeah, exactly. Like it is the right move to make. And I'm delighted to see it pass. Good to know now that we can just get back to talking about the games as regular, to be honest.
Exactly. So, and we will discuss the camogie games after we discuss the hurling games in general. So there are All-Ireland games going on in the camogie championship, but we will discuss them in just a sec. But we'll start off with the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship. And this is the game that probably most people will be watching, Dublin against Galway in the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship on Sunday at 2 p.m. This is from Parnell Park, live on RT2. And the permutations, again, pretty simple in this. Galway only need a draw or a win to get to the Leinster final. Dublin have to win to get to the Leinster final, considering their scoring difference and stuff like that. But both sides are true to the All-Ireland series. So there isn't much pressure attached for both sides. But I'll have to start off with Galway, Liam, because you did predict at the start of the year, I don't want to bring up, but you said they'd finish 4th or 5th. And they're now in the top 3 in Leinster. First of all, egg in your face.
Maybe, but I'm still not convinced by them. And I'm saying, I know I'm probably pissing off Galway people. Listen, I was born in Galway. My favourite hurler of all time is Joe Canning. I was there at the 2017 All-Ireland final and I was supporting Galway. I've nothing against Galway. I love the county. I'm just... Look, for Galway, look, it is a huge game from the perspective of how they went out last year to the same opposition that they're playing this weekend. And for me, because look, like I said, I want to see Galway perform. I absolutely do, because I have been critical of them, like you said, and I'll say it with chest. I like Galway hurling. I like Micheál Donoghue as a manager. And Galway have some of the best hurlers in the country. Conor Whelan, Cathal Mannion are terrific players. Gavin Lee has embraced the centre back role. Keenan Fahy's a solid player. Anthony Burns and Cian Malloy are very good, solid forwards. But my problem with them all along over the last 2 years has been their consistency and their 70-minute performances against the top sides. Yes, they've beaten Offaly. Thanks, lads. They've beaten Wexford and Antrim. And look, you could sit there and say, well, beating Wexford is good. You know, Wexford traditionally are a top-class team and they have some top-class players, absolutely. But really, those aren't the games they have to be judged on, because you can clearly see from Wexford this year, their performance against Dublin. I was at the game they played against us last weekend, and they got very fortunate to win that. They weren't overly convincing against Antrim. Wexford are not what they used to be. So beating us and Antrim and Wexford, and fair play for that. But as Galway, they're not judged on those games. If you look at some of their other games this year, Tipperary annihilated, Cork torn apart, Limerick second best, Kilkenny just poor. One of the worst displays I've ever seen from them against Kilkenny. So I just think for themselves, they need a massive 70 minutes here. And I will absolutely hold my hands up. And like you said, egg on my face, I'll happily hold my hands up afterwards on Sunday evening if they come through this game and manage to secure a Leinster final appearance, because I can respect them then, or not respect them, but I can certainly give my due diligence if they beat this Dublin team, especially against a Dublin team that they don't like travelling to, and this new look Dublin team, which seems to have a different sort of mentality about them. They have a I think they have a top class manager. I think Niall O'Connell's one of the best managers in the country. You know, I saw the success he had with Nafina. He knows the game. He knows Dublin hurling inside out. And Dublin have a terrific panel, in my opinion. If they can go and win there this weekend, get themselves a Leinster semi-final or a Leinster final appearance, then fair play to them. Absolutely. But if they do lose, then look, I'm not going to be happy about this, because I want to see Galway doing well. You know, it's only better that you see, I know they're Connacht, but teams that are competing in the Leinster Championship doing better, because realistically, if they were to lose this, I don't really fancy their chances at the moment against Cork or Tipperary or possibly even Waterford in an All-Ireland quarter-final. You know, I can imagine they'll probably get through one of Kildare, Carlow or Laois, but I don't see them beating one of those teams. And then, yeah, I don't see them beating Kilkenny in a Leinster final. So I think they have to win this weekend. It's a massive game for them. And like I said, I'll hold my hands up if they do go and win a game like this. Do I think they will? No. Straight up, no. I don't see it. I think this Dublin team, I think their forwards are better overall. I think their squad is stronger. I think this game being in Dublin, Galway don't travel to Dublin, as we mentioned very well. So it'll be a major mental battle for them more than anything. And I think for O'Callaghan as well, to reach a Leinster decider in his first season would be a major achievement. And if the likes of Sean Curry and O'Sullivan, along with the midfield, and Chris Crummy at centre-back, they'll need to be at their very best in particular in trying to stop the likes of Mannion and Whelan. And if you stop them, then you're going to go a very, very long way winning this game.
Exactly. So Sean O'Malley makes a very good comment in here. You would back Dublin would win, given that they'll be playing at home, but the amount of goals that they're conceding worries me. And the Micheál Donoghue factor could have a massive impact. That is an excellent point, obviously, and we'll see how that all plays out on Sunday. Brian O'Riordan comes in here with a comment from Dublin's perspective. There are really positive signs for hurling. It is great. It was great comeback last week, obviously, against Kilkenny. Need to brush up on the basic mistakes which leads to Kilkenny goals. And that's the thing with Dublin. We talk about Galway's consistency, and Dublin have been consistently good, in fairness, with their performances, and the defeated players have settled well into the Dublin team, including the likes of Conor McHugh, AJ Murphy when he has played, Colin Curry and Sean Curry. Like, I think Sean Curry is actually one of the top scorers of the championship overall so far, and he got 2 goals against Kilkenny last week. So you have to say Neil O'Callaghan deserves a lot of credit for betting these players in. But as the comments do say there, do they have a tendency of conceding goals? And does that have an indication there that they need a light of an Owen O'Donnell back at full back? I know he's at the football team right now, but he wasn't on the panel against Galway last week at the football. So, like, if Owen O'Donnell, I know that's probably not going to happen this year, but if Owen O'Donnell was there in full back, would you say Dublin would be a lot more sorted in terms of where they want to go?
I feel O'Donnell could have had his awkward moments at the back, to say the least, that kind of also put Dublin in trouble at times, but he is also a rock solid player. So you probably would say that he would definitely make them a lot stronger. There's no doubt about that. And look, they're not wrong there. Like I saw Dublin when they played us in Parnell Park. They conceded 2 goals, which really they could have been very much avoided. One long ball in, and then a deflected goal from Samson as well. They conceded 4 against Wexford, and then 5 against Kilkenny. And I mean, let's be real about it. I've been listening to Michael Verney, who was at the game last week, and he said it himself, if those 4 goals were conceded at under 12 level in the first half, you'd be seething. They were 4 of the worst goals I'd say Kilkenny will ever score in the championship in their lives, to be honest with you. So that is something that O'Callaghan will have to fix, especially look, and to be fair to Galway, they got 6 goals against Antrim, they got 2 against us, and they scored a goal against Wexford as well. So, they have their goal threats. I mean, Conor Whelan on any given day can get you a goal, along with Cathal Mannion's had a terrific season already. If Cian Malloy is there, he could certainly get you a goal. So they do have goal threats. If Anthony Burns is brought onto the pitch this weekend, he's a major goal threat. So Galway will factor in those things. Micheál Donoghue does know the Dublin panel inside out as well, or most of them anyway, from giving his time there as well. That could play a huge factor as well. I think O'Donnell would absolutely make them stronger. There's no point saying otherwise. I think the Dublin defence is weaker without him there. And it could be a question maybe of, could you even be tempted to put Chris Crummey back at full back? Could he make a difference there? But then do you impact his influence of, maybe being that spare man between the 45 and the midfield to sweep up play and start play and be that big threat, that big aerial threat he is at centre back as well when a high ball's coming in. So I don't know what way O'Callaghan's going to be thinking from that perspective this weekend, but it will be interesting to see. Just for me though, I still think Dublin do have a better attack, and Galway's defence still isn't marvellous themselves. Like it's not something that I feel Dublin will be overly worried about to an extent either, to be quite honest. I mean, Wexford got in for 2 easy enough goals as well. We saw how easy Kilkenny got their goals against Galway. They've been shipping a lot of goals for the large majority of the year. So it could be a goal fest. Genuinely, we could get a goal fest here. It could be a 3-20 to 4-18 or something like that, and people will be loving it from a neutral's perspective. But I am just going to shade it to Dublin. Parnell Park is not a nice ground to go to for opposition players, for opposition fans as well. Tight pitch, the Dublin faithful are, right on top of you. It feels like a bit of a cauldron in a way. Difficult to get parking there too. I can tell you that. I am still going to shade it to Dublin. I think they'll be back in a Leinster final, and I certainly think they'll put up a better performance against Kilkenny than what they did last year. In the Leinster final, or at least you'd certainly hope so, and it's not over after 10 minutes. But it'd be very interesting to see how Dublin cope at fullback this weekend. And like I said, O'Donnell could be someone that they could be looking to bring back next year.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. As Brian, I brought up the comment again, Brian was mentioning that Owen O'Donnell wasn't involved in Salthill last weekend. And that is probably an indication. Look, I think for Owen himself, come back to the hurlers. I know the footballers are on a high after winning against Galway last week, but clearly the footballers have their full forwards intact now. Brian O'Leary and the football team has really come in and did well against Galway last weekend. Larkin O'Dale has. Ross McGarry, when he's called upon, has as well. There's more to choose from in the football team. So the hurling team won't need O'Donnell more at fullback. So it makes sense. Come back in, I would say. And Dublin are on a good upward trajectory in hurling, but in terms of this game, I probably won't go for Dublin as well. But I think it'll be close. I think Galway will push the ball the way, but Parnell Park might be a deciding factor, and the fans might get on Galway's back. as well. Look at the lower end of the table and involves Louth County, obviously Offaly, in Glennis O'Connor Park. They're facing Antrim on Sunday at 2 p.m. This is live on GA Plus as well. They actually, on GA Plus and RT, the deal was actually to have one having Kilkenny and Wexford and one having Galway and Dublin, but they deviated a bit, which is absolutely brilliant to see and great for GA Plus to do this, because as we'll discuss later, Kilkenny and Wexford is a dead rubber. But this game, Liam, it's pretty simple in terms of permutations once again. Offaly can draw this game and stay up. Antrim have to win. But let's be honest, with the way both sides have played so far this year, you would expect Offaly to win, surely.
You would expect it, but I'm also someone who's seen the dark side of Offaly GAA growing up, so it's hard to, you'd be thinking, Jesus, is this going to be one of those days where everything just goes wrong or something like that, or player gets sent off, or the weather's bad, or I don't know, we're talking about the referee afterwards. I don't know. I certainly hope not. But yeah, look, I'll be one of the few who won't be watching Dublin Galway. I'll be at this game instead. And look, as much as I've written off Galway this year, if we beat Antrim Sunday, Galway can go beat Dublin. Sorry, Seamus. Galway can go beat Dublin for all I care, to be honest with you. I'll just be happy that we'll be getting 3 home games in Leinster next year and not going back to the Joe McDonagh. But yeah, no, look, it's a massive game. Even if we had beaten Wexford last weekend, we still would have needed a result from this game. And yeah, like you said, a draw will be enough. But for me, there's absolutely no way that Offaly be going out this weekend looking for a draw or trying to be reserved, or at least that they can't think that way. They have to go out. I think if they perform like they have in their games, like Dublin, like Wexford, how they started off against Galway, then there's absolutely no reason to suggest we won't win this game, to be honest with you. Antrim have their own problems. They've been shocking in the championship. I was not impressed with them in the league at all. I know Davey was saying, he thought the league was good or was okay. I don't think it was. I think they're like, okay, they staged a late comeback to draw down in Carlow, but I think that was more a case of Carlow throwing the game away, to be honest with you, than Antrim actually having to do anything. They bet a very poor Westmeath side, as we've come to see, and they beat Laois, who equally have shipped a couple of goals this year themselves. So I don't really think you can look at the league and say it was anything spectacular. They were battered down at Tullamore, they were battered in Dublin, and they shipped. They were destroyed by Waterford at home. So I think overall the Davy project has not been going well. People would say he has one little trick up his sleeve for this weekend. I don't think he will. And I know people could be saying he's been reserving lads, or he's been kind of getting players to lay back a bit, for this one big game this weekend. But there's just been nothing to suggest from me that Antrim are going to do anything spectacular this weekend. And this could come back to bite me, and Jesus, I hope it doesn't. But I'm just not impressed with Antrim this year. They're not the same Antrim team as old. Even seeing them in the league game back a couple of months back, they were trying to reduce it to just a fist fight at times, and they were trying to make it a dirty, rotten game. As soon as we started properly hurling, it was game over. And I have a feeling that something like that could happen this weekend. There's reports that the weather's not going to be great this weekend, so it won't be. It could be a game that will be like the game against Wexford last weekend for us, where it's just dogged more than anything, and then eventually you'll have to let the hurling take over and do the talking. They'll have McNaughton back this weekend. I don't know whether they'll have any of their other injury candidates back this weekend. Obviously, they had that red card last weekend, which, look, it wasn't a red card, let's be honest. But for the comments that Davey has made in the last week, targeting Johnny Murphy and all that. And listen, I was critical of him for the red card against James Mahon, but you didn't see Johnny Kelly coming out afterwards saying Johnny Murphy hates me or doesn't like me or doesn't like Offaly. And Davey's kind of seeming like he's kind of throwing his players under the bus a small bit as well. So I can't imagine it's a particularly happy camp at the moment. And look, if this game was in Corrigan Park, it could be a dangerous game for us. But with this game in Tullamore, I think we really should have enough for them this weekend. Still have our own injury problems as well. And, in a way, though, you could probably still guess what the team will be this weekend, given how it's been the last number of weeks. But I think, look, if we get Dignan playing to his game, if Oisin Kelly can have a massive game, if Dan Burke can have a massive game, your Cottle Kings, your Charlie Mitchells, your Mark Troy's in goals, if your backline can be solid, if Donald Shirley can have a good game, then we'll go an absolutely long way to winning this game. And I hope to God we do, because for the work that's gone on over the last number of years, we've won 5 underage Leinster titles in the last 5 years in both codes. And we've worked so hard to get back from the Christie Ring back up to here, to just find ourselves back relegated down to the Joe McDonagh. And as we've seen this year with Kildare and what they've thrown themselves into the mix this year, they could be a Leinster senior hurling team next year. It's no given that we'll be coming back up straight away. So no, this is possibly Offaly's biggest game, I'd say, since the 2000 All-Ireland final this weekend. I think it's an absolutely humongous game for the county.
Gavin's put in a comment in here, and I'll throw this question to you, Liam, considering you're an Offaly man yourself. If Offaly go down, do you think there's a serious yo-yo problem with the Leinster Championship and the Joe McDonagh Cup?
Probably so. Look, I've been hearing a lot over the last number of weeks on different sets of podcasts or whatever about, is it time to restructure the Leinster Championship? Is it time to maybe make it an 8, maybe 10 team competition, and bring the likes of your Laois, your Westmeath, your Carlows, your Kildares up and make it 2 tiers? So I don't know, maybe for an example, a Kildare, Wexford, Offaly, Kildare group, and then the next one is Dublin, Galway, I don't remember who did I say in the other group, Wexford or whatever. I don't know, just something like that maybe, and then having it as the top 2 go to a semi-final, the top teams, or the top 2 go to semi-finals, and then you work from there. It probably could do with a restructure, just because, you look at it, Carlow went up, they won the Joe McDonagh in 2023, they went straight back down. Antrim obviously won the Joe McDonagh in 2022, and they have stayed up over the last number of years, but I think their time is coming to an end now. But they've only been up for a couple of years. Laois were straight back down kind of straight away. Westmeath were back down straight away. And if Offaly were to go back down straight away, and considering as well that a lot of people would have been saying that Offaly are probably the best chance of staying in the Leinster Championship after winning a Joe McDonagh, and possibly, given just the underage success we've had over the last number of years, the team most likely to put up a challenge to the likes of Kilkenny's and Dublin's and Wexford's and Galway's over the next number of years, to go straight back down, it could propose a bit of a problem. But at the same time, that's not to diminish the Joe McDonagh Cup. The Joe McDonagh Cup is absolutely excellent. It's a brilliant competition. But at the same time, you want to be in the Leinster Championship competing. So will it be a serious yo-yo problem? I feel like it depends on who goes down this weekend, because if Antrim go down, then you can look at it and say, well, look, Antrim got 2023, 2024 and 2025, so they've had a couple of years and to try and improve and to try and get back up to the speed of things in the Leinster Championship. Whereas I suppose if Offaly were to go down, you'd be thinking, like, that's 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row now that the winners of the Joe McDonagh have gone straight back down. So I suppose it kind of just depends on the result this weekend. But I actually would be in favour of maybe switching it up a bit again, and maybe making it a 2-tier, 8-team, 10-team type of championship type of round robin series. But I suppose, look, that's a discussion for another day.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd probably think the Leinster Championship needs to be restructured as well. It does help the likes of Offaly, and next season we'll talk about the Joe McDonagh Cup there, like Kildare, Laois, Carlow, between one of them 3 sides. Seeing as Offaly's underage is improving, you would probably say that one of them 3 are going to be the favourites to go down, whoever comes up this year, and then the yo-yo effect will start again. And you probably don't want that without a doubt. But yeah, I agree with you. I'll probably say Offaly to win this game as well, and Davy to lead Antrim to the Joe McDonagh Cup. Who would have thought? But on to the last Leinster Championship game, and this is dead rubber. As it all turned out, Wexford against Kilkenny in Wexford Park, in Chadwick's Wexford Park on Sunday at 2 p.m. As this is a dead rubber, Liam, we'll just say our prediction. Just for the record, I actually think Wexford might win this game. They want to end their season on a high. And considering Kilkenny might play a B or a C team in this game, they'll finish first regardless in this game. So it's a nothing game to them. But for Wexford more so, Liam, because we won't talk about them again on this podcast. They're going out of the championship, obviously. A bad season overall for Keith Rossiter?
Certainly a challenging season, because you look at the players he's lost. He's lost Diarmuid O'Keefe, Lee Moog McGovern, who else did he lose? He lost someone else as well. I can't think off the top of my head.
Matthew Hanlon.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest one. Jesus, how did I forget about him? But you lose 3 really imposing figures like that. You think there was no, I don't even know if there was even a guaranteed league. Jim was going to be back for a while. He was gone for most of the league. He's also 32 years of age. They're still relying on him very, very heavily. He's trying to bring through a lot of the younger players, which is a good sign. And he obviously knows a lot of them from working with them at under 20 level. Look, they've won the games that maybe at the start of the year you would have expected them to win against Antrim and Offaly at home, albeit going down right to the wire. And even against Antrim, it was nothing simple either. But they're real important games. They were poor away to Galway and against Dublin. I mean, they scored 419, but they conceded 326, 327. So and they started off that game extremely, extremely poorly. You know, their style of hurling really, really wasn't. Just in terms of being a defensively solid team, it was very, very poor. And I suppose, look, they can also take positives but I think they can take a few more positives from the year than Clare. Just simply, nobody expected a lot from Wexford this year, if we're being frank and honest. And look, they got relegated in the end. But listen, they had a lot of injury problems throughout the league as well, and they still pulled off wins against Clare and Limerick away from home, albeit the Limerick game again was a dead rubber. But just even for confidence and morale, it was great to get a win like that, and they'll be able to say that they beat Limerick this year. So that's always something to look back on. But yeah, no, they probably should win this game, or no. Honestly, knowing Wexford, they could draw this. You know, even with Kilkenny putting out a so-called second team or whatever. And there's a bit of rivalry there as well. Kilkenny won't want to lose this either, even with, this being a dead rubber of sorts. But yeah, no, I'd say it's been a bit more of a positive season than Clare's. But given they're going into Division 1B next year, there was a journalist from Wexford last weekend, with about 10 minutes to go in the game last weekend down in Wexford Park, and he said to me, "What's the Joe McDonagh like?" Indicating that they're heading there. And I was like, we wouldn't say that just yet. But it is a bit worrying times for Wexford. Obviously, you'd be hoping that a lot of their younger players, your Keane, Burns, etc., can come through over the next number of years and get them back to where they need to be. But the real core of the 2019 team is mostly effectively gone. And they're looking to having to rebuild again. And yeah, I would still keep Keith Rossiter in the job. I still think he's a good Wexford hurling man, and he knows the county inside out, and he is trying to, improve the county fierce well and everything like that. But given even as well the under-20s losing at home to Laois, and look, Laois weren't even the best side this year at under-20 either, or at least given their results in the groups against us and Galway, then yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of years now for Wexford, and yeah, 2026 is going to bring on a massive challenge for them.
Exactly. So it should be very interesting to see how Wexford do progress after going out of the championship this year, but we'll see what happens indeed. We'll go on to the Joe McDonagh Cup now, and unlike the Leinster and the Munster Championships, where the permutations are pretty straightforward, brace yourselves for this, lads. This is a hectic few games here. So they're all starting on Saturday at 2 p.m. They're all live on Clubber, which is absolutely brilliant again to see. So I think we have to mix them all into one, because there is one game involving two promotion candidates, one game involving two relegation candidates, and one game in between, one relegation, one promotion. So let's go. So the first game, Carlow against Laois. This is on in Netwatch Cullen Park on Clubber, obviously on Saturday at 2 p.m. That's involving the two promotion candidates. The other promotion candidate is Kildare. They're in action against Down on Saturday at 2 p.m. Now, Clubber in St. Conduit's Park in Newbridge. And down are in the relegation conversation, as well as these two, Kerry against Westmeath in Austin Stark Park, Tralee, and this game is on at 2 p.m. on Saturday on Clubber as well. So the table, as it stands, is Laois and Carlow and Kildare are all at 6 points at the moment. Laois are ahead on scoring difference at 56, Carlow are at 44, Kildare are at 22. Then in the relegation, Westmeath, Kerry and Down are all involved with all 2 points on the board, but Down have the least on scoring difference with minus 63. Kerry have minus 44 and Westmeath on minus 15. So there's a lot of mathematics to go on here. So in the promotion, if there is a winner between Laois and Carlow, regardless of what happens in the Kildare and Down game, Kildare will be in the Joe McDonagh Cup final. But if there's a draw between Laois and Carlow, Kildare have to beat Down in Newbridge. Laois and Carlow's essential. It is an essential Joe McDonagh Cup semi-final. The only way that two of them can be in the Joe McDonagh Cup final, as far as I can gather, is if Kildare avoid a win against Down. So that is crucial, and we'll see how that all plays out. In terms of the relegation, Down more or less have to beat Kildare to have any chance of surviving in this. But they could actually survive if Kildare beat them, because if Westmeath beat Kerry in the other game, Down will survive because they beat Kerry last week on the head-to-head. A lot of stuff going on there, Liam, but how do you see it all going? It is absolutely mental. It's great to see on the final day.
Yeah, you gotta love the Joe McDonagh. It's mental, isn't it? It's incredible. And again, I've said it numerous times this year. Credit to Clubber as well for showing all these games. I was able to watch them all last year on Erasmus, and I'm able to watch them all again this year in the country. It's a fantastic service, and sure they're showing a lot more club championships this year as well. They'll be showing Wexford and Cork and Roscommon as well this year. It's brilliant to see. But yeah, I actually for some reason I thought Westmeath could have gone down this weekend too. I don't know why. I just with all the points difference and head to heads, it's scrambling my own brain too. But I think regardless of Westmeath's result this weekend, I think it's been a poor season from them, and they won't be satisfied with it at all with how the season's gone. But more so onto Kerry and Down in the relegation battle first. Yeah, it's remarkable to think that Down could actually survive, even if they could take a hammering from Kildare this weekend, if we're being realistic. I know they bet them in the league final, but what's gone on since, it's like they're two completely, it's like PSG in the Champions League. They were terrible in October, November, December, and now they're one of the best sides in Europe. And it's the same with Kildare. They threw away the Division 2A final against Down, and look at them now. They're within 70 minutes of a Joe McDonagh final, which is absolutely incredible. And great credit to them. The work that's gone on there over the last number of years, the growth of Naas hurling as well has been savage. You look at some of the players they have, the Borens and Jack Sheridan, etc. They've been Keegan. They've been fantastic, and they were well worth their victory against Westmeath. They were full value for their win against Carlow, and they absolutely obliterated Laois. And I still wonder how they lost to Kerry, because they should have beaten them that day too, to be honest with you. That's the biggest surprise of all for me. But yeah, no, they look, like I said, for Kerry, I said at the start of the year they would struggle, and I fear for them here, to be honest with you. They're in a downward spiral, really, and for them, this would be a final nail in the coffin if they were to lose here. And I think they will. I still think, albeit they conceded 7 goals against Carlow, and they've conceded 7 goals against Waterford this year, and their defence 3 against Kildare, and they had a poor performance against Laois. I still think Westmeath have too much quality that'd be able to take apart Kerry, to be honest, which I don't think Kerry's defence is all that solid. For Down, I think they'll lose to Kildare. I don't think there's any question about that. And they're going away to Condon's Park, which doesn't help them either. But listen, for them to survive another year in the Joe Mac would be absolutely massive. And I think Kerry, their golden age essentially now is over. They've reached 2 Joe McDonagh finals in those years, and I think it's coming to an end this weekend. I think they're heading straight back to the Christie Ring, which might, in a way, do them no harm given how the season has gone. For Carlow and Laois, like you said, it's essentially a semi-final. It's basically an All-Ireland semi-final for these teams, to be honest with you. And yeah, realistic. Like I said, Kildare will beat Down, and so this will be the crunch game for these two sides. Given the contrast in the ways these sides lost to Kildare as well, it'd be very interesting to see how they each turn up and react. Carlow will be very confident, I believe. They're at home, and as well, given how Carlow just buried 7 goals towards Westmeath, you have Marty Kavanagh, James Doyle, and Chris Nolan. They're 3 absolutely magnificent hurlers, and if Laois can nullify them 3 and their presence, then they've got a great chance. James Duggan needs to be on fire like he has been already this year. Like, he needs to be scoring 5 goals like he did against Kerry. But Laois need to sort their defence out too. It was shocking last weekend. It felt, I was watching mostly the second half, and shout out to Seamus Brady for doing commentary and me not realising until he said it to me afterwards. Did a stellar job. But it just felt very exposed, to be honest with you. Tom Mullally will no doubt be looking at that performance in the defence and aiming to expose it. Carlow have scored loads of goals already this season. 6 against Down. They scored 7 against Westmeath, 2 against Kerry. They scored 2 against Waterford as well. Like, goals is their game, and they are clinical when given a chance. And I suppose, defeat for either side would be detrimental, because, look, as an Offaly man, I know full well how difficult it is to win, to be down in the Joe McDonagh. And struggle to get out of it. Carlow and Laois are good sides who have top-class players across the panels. And for one or the other, it's going to feel like a real missed opportunity at the end of the weekend if they do go out, to be honest with you. And yeah, no, it's a massive game for both their seasons.
Exactly. So I'd probably go along with what you're saying there. I think Kerry will go down anyway, judging by how the games are going, regardless of what happens in the down game. If Kerry lose, which I think they will against Westmeath, they're gone. So I think they'll go, unfortunately, back down to the Christie Ring for them for the first time in a long while, actually. So Kerry have done well to stay up at the Drum McDonagh for as long as they have, but they probably will go back down this weekend. Kildare will be down, in my opinion, as well. So I think Carlow will beat Laois as well. Like, Carlow have been more impressive, I think, than Laois have. Laois have had their brilliant players like the likes of James Duggan and Ben Conroy, but Carlow, Marty Kavanagh scored 3-12 last week against Westmeath, was absolutely exceptional. Chris Nolan, I think, has scored 6-11 from play in the Joe McDonagh Cup and was the top scorer from play in Division 1B in the league as well. He's been outstanding. So I'd say Carlow and Kildare will be in the final in Croke Park in 2 weeks' time.
If Kildare obviously win and Carlow and Laois draw, who'd you say the points difference? Who goes to the final?
Just double check. I'm pretty sure it's Carlow. It is, yeah. Carlow or wait, Laois. Laois are actually on a higher points difference than Carlow are.
Oh wow! So a draw could actually send Laois.
A draw would send Laois to the final. Yeah.
Oh wow! Oh wow! A Laois Kildare final, and no, we're not doing this again. Do you remember a couple of months back when I said to you, Laois going up with Kildare in Division 3 and Offaly not going up? That Jesus, no, this. Us to go down and for Laois and Kildare, no. Move on quick. Jesus Christ. No, thanks.
No, you want Carlow to win, so.
Yeah. Look, nothing against Laois if they do win, fair play to them. You know, look, it's a Leinster side at the end of the day coming up, but look, as once we stay up, then whoever wants to come up can come up. So.
It's almost like the situation you were in the Europa League final last night.
Jesus Christ. That was just on a side note. That was one of the worst matches I've ever seen in my life. Like, look, fair play to Tottenham. They deserved it. United are on an absolute downward spiral. Funny. But Jesus, that final was dreadful to watch it was funny to watch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's it is obviously, but we both predict that Carlow and Kildare will get to the final, but we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, there is no game at the Christie Ring or Nicky Racker this weekend. The finals of those competitions have been confirmed. We'll discuss those in next week's podcast. The Lory Meagher Cup, Cavan are in the final already, but there is a semi-final to be played, and that is Monaghan against New York in Cusack Park, Mullingar and Westmeath. TG Cusack Park, Mullingar, Westmeath. It's actually live on ERV TV on Saturday at 1 p.m. this game, so it should be a very interesting game indeed. But Peter Fortune, the Louth hurling captain, actually put out a tweet, and he tagged me in the tweet as well, so I think it'd be good courtesy to read it out anyway. He put up a whole thread. If you've missed it on Twitter, check it out if you haven't already. I have given it a retweet. He tweeted in the first tweet anyway, that's all I'll read on this. This will be painted as a real success story by the media and the GA, but it's just another example of the disrespect to the lower tier players and competitions. What does this say to the players who have bust their holes in the last few months to try and reach a final? Nothing against New York joining the competition, having somewhere to compete, as we already have Lancashire and Warwickshire at this level, but allowing them to wait till the semi-final when everyone has had to hurl 5 games in the hope of getting to Croke Park is incredibly unfair. I would love to know if the GA have a plan next year if New York do go and get the win in the Lory Meagher semi-final and progress in the Nicky Racker Cup, but you could be sure they haven't thought that far ahead. So there is actually one more tweet as well. The only positive is it has brought some media traction to what has been a great competition in another year where there have been no launches for any of the lower tier competitions, while there's been great launch and sustained social media presence for the Tailteann Cup in football again. Peter Fortune, he obviously has been on RT talking about lower tier hurling and things like that, but you said in the podcast a few weeks ago, Liam, and I do agree with you to an extent, that New York being in the Lory Meagher Cup is a good thing. And it is a good thing to see hurlers in New York who are based over there for work or Erasmus or whatever, being over there and being able to hurl. But then again, is that unfair on the likes of Monaghan, who have done well in the 5 games, to get in second position and they're not in the final as Lory Meagher finalists would have been in previous years. Your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, when you put it into that kind of perspective, I think it's severely unfair on them. And I mean, I think even what he said there about that there was no launch this year for the lower tier competitions, I think is the biggest joke of all, to be honest with you. They have to be like, they've put Meagher in charge of hurling essentially, but that's not going to absolutely change the whole landscape of hurling, all across the country, to try and change, certain football counties who are more predominantly football, and that's all right, but trying to change their perspective on what hurling is like, it's not just putting in one man is not going to change anything. And actually, ironically, the Monaghan hurling manager, Arthur Hughes, also labelled it as an absolute disgrace. He said, I think it's an absolute disgrace. It's not that long ago that GA were trying to get rid of 5 counties in Ireland for playing the National League, and now the next thing they've done is bringing in New York. It's an absolute joke, in my opinion. And I suppose, like, yeah, look, like I did say that it was a good thing for New York, but you also have to put those things into context as well. It would be extremely unfair to see New York, say, in a Lory Meagher final after playing one game. Like, that's not really fair. It's Monaghan have bursted themselves over the last while, and they have done well. They've earned the right to be in the Lory Meagher final and have a crack against Cavan in the final and have their day out. This is the thing as well, have their day out in Croke Park as well. Like, that's the pinnacle of any player's career in hurling or football. No matter what even competition it's in, it's the biggest day of your life to be playing in Croke Park, and in a final as well, in a national final. And I suppose, yeah, no, for New York to kind of get that chance now and have to do it by just playing one game, I think those lads have, Peter Fortune and Arthur, have absolutely every right to be having a go at the GAA for this. And I think the promotion of the lower tier grades, it hasn't been great, I'll be honest with you. I saw it firsthand when we were in the Christie Ring. There was poor coverage of it. Michael Fennelly highlighted it while he was Offaly manager. There wasn't a lot being done to promote hurling in smaller counties. And I mean, that was 4 or 5 years ago. And look at here now, and we're still getting no launches. And you have this situation now. You saw the Division 3 finals in the league. There was no officials, or there was no actual linesmen's available. Was it for the Down and Kildare game? The finals were being played in club grounds. That's not right. Whilst, look, understandably, Cork and Tip, Offaly, Waterford were played in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but even then, they should have been looking at a situation where they could have put maybe Down and Kildare in Cork along with Cork and Tip. You put Waterford, Offaly, and Kilkenny alongside the rest of the finals. For Man Aloud, the one that springs to mind, where they took the 2 managers and they spoke about it afterwards, saying, at the end of the day, this is a bigger issue than the result than it was. So, yeah, no, I think there's a lot for the GAA to sort out in terms of promoting hurling in the lower tiers anyway. I think there's still a long, long way to go, and I can understand the frustrations as well.
Exactly so. And it is a difficult kind of situation to comprehend, really, because like it is unfair about it. And I do get that point, absolutely. 5 games, doing so well in those 5 games as well, drawing that game against Longford last week when they had to get a draw to finish at the top 2. They did their bit, Monaghan. But like, at the same time, how do you actually fix this issue? Because New York are obviously a new team in the Lory Meagher Cup. What do you do in that situation? Do you just play a first round game? But then again, like the travel expenses for New York players to go to and from for 5 games in the group, that's another kind of issue as well. It is really a difficult one to balance both parties in many ways.
No, like I can fully understand that. And it's the same way that even a couple of years ago, I remember we played New York in the Tailteann Cup, and they were given a straight ticket to the quarterfinals, and it was their only game that they played that year. And I think was it Laois they played, was it last year or the year before as well? They're only getting like the one game in the Tailteann Cup as well. So look, I know it is a difficult situation to know. Like, it's not like having Warwickshire or Lancashire or London playing in the Tailteann Cup or in the Lory Meaghers or the Nicky Rackards, because they're a lot closer really than New York. But at the same time, this is an issue that GAA have to get sorted at some point, to be honest with you, because it's not a good look for them, and it's tough on them because, look, it is the long way away New York is, and obviously, like you said, it's an amateur sport at the end of the day. It's not like you're asking a Manchester United or a Barcelona or a big club like that, or even Irish rugby or Leinster rugby even, to be traveling to New York to play these games. You're asking amateur athletes to take days off work, to be committing themselves to an amateur organization to go play these games, in a country that's 8 hours away, 9-hour flight away, 10-hour flight away. So no, it is an issue they're going to have to resolve sooner rather than later, because really, if Monaghan were to lose, now I don't think Monaghan will lose this game, but if Monaghan were to lose this game and they were to miss out on the chance of a national final more than anything, given that opportunity to play in the final, then they'll have a lot of questions to answer.
Exactly. So I do predict Monaghan win this game as well. But if New York were to win, this story will go on for a long time, and I have no doubts about that, obviously. There was one game in the under-20 All-Ireland Championship this week as well, and that was Kilkenny's win over Dublin in the Leinster final. They beat them 221 to 17 points. Obviously, your own county Offaly did go out to Dublin early on the campaign. Dublin did lose this game pretty comprehensively. They got a red card early on in the second half, but Kilkenny got 2 goals in the first half, courtesy of Rory Glynn and Aaron McAvoy, that really ended the game more than anything. And Michael Brennan got 8 points as well. Lohof, I think his name is, got 4 points, a bit of a weird name there. And Darren Verker got 2 points in this game as well. Tom McPhillips got 2 points for Kilkenny. So they'll play Tipperary in the under-20 Leinster final, or All-Ireland final, should I say. So both of those sides are excelling at All-Ireland underage grades, no doubt about it, Kilkenny and Tipperary. But what were your thoughts on this result?
Yeah, I mean, it was you could tell, first of all, without standing biased, that there was no Offaly in it, because there wasn't a big crowd at it. If that was us, we'd have probably sold out the ground, to be honest with you. But no, listen, fair play to Kilkenny. I kind of expected Kilkenny to win it. Like, Dublin did knock us out, but I wasn't sitting there thinking Dublin were the best side in the world. Like, it was 4 kind of softish enough goals that we kind of gave away on the day, kind of goals that we wouldn't have conceded over the last number of years. Just everything that could have gone wrong on that day kind of did over in Newbridge. Not to say Dublin aren't a good side. They have a lot of really good players in their team, like O'Reen, and I thought Brendan Kenny had a good game, as he usually does for Dublin at that level. But they didn't have Purcell, which was a massive miss. He hasn't played for a long time. Don't know what the story is there, but yeah, no, I expected Kilkenny. I saw their game that they played against Dublin in the first round, I believe it was Dublin's first round, Kilkenny's second round in the group. And Kilkenny were the better side overall. They were very dominant, and they took their goals very well. And the same as last night. I agree with Sean. I think he put in a comment there about the red card. Very harsh. Very, very harsh. Warranting a second yellow. Was it a free? Sure, but warranting a second yellow, I think, was very, very harsh on the young lad, to be honest, which I don't think was fair. But I don't think it made a difference to the game. Kilkenny were winning by 6 at half time, and it kind of just spurred them on a bit to get the job done in the second half. And yeah, like you said, it's going to be a Kilkenny-Tipperary final in Nolan Park again. If we can get the same type of dramatics as we got last year in the minor final, then we'll be in for quite a cracker, to be honest with you. But I think Tipperary might just be too strong for that Kilkenny team. Like, they obviously at the start of the year, I would have loved it if we'd gotten another crack with them and made it a trilogy of Ireland finals against them. But I think that Tipperary team, when you look at the players they have, the Darren McCarthy's, Oisin O'Donoghue's, Samuel Farrell is there. Like, they have Paddy McCormack as well. They have some savage players in that team, and they deservedly won Munster overall. I think, they lost their first game against Limerick, and they kind of looked like on the night they were relying a bit too much on McCarthy. But look, anything can happen on the opening game of a championship, to be honest with you. Once they got that game out of the way, they just went through the Munster Championship very, very comprehensively, picked up some very, very comfortable wins along the way. And listen, the game against Clare was a cracker, the final. I think overall they deserved to win it. And they're going to take very hard to beat team for Kilkenny to beat. Kilkenny having home advantage, you would say it would be huge, but Tip did beat them last year in Nolan Park in that All-Ireland final after extra time, and they have a big cohort of that minor team coming in as well. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a cracking final. I'm looking forward to it. Shame that we're not there again this year to try and sell out the ground or cause Ticketmaster to break down again. There was the best tweet I saw last year was Taylor Swift can't break Ticketmaster, but Adam Screeney could. That was the best tweet I've ever seen in my life. But But yeah, no, it should be a cracker of a game. And yeah, look, congratulations to Kilkenny. They were very much deserving winners, and yeah, should be a cracking game on the 31st of May.
Yeah, exactly. It should be very much a very good game, obviously, between Kilkenny and Tipperary, two historic hurling counties, and we'll see how that game goes in the under-20 final. We'll look at the camogie now, and we aren't focusing on scarves and shorts. We'll focus on the pitch. There are some games this weekend. The All-Ireland Camogie Championship does start the group stages this weekend. So in Group 1, just for listeners' context here, we have Cork, the All-Ireland champions, Limerick, Tipperary, Clare and Wexford. And then in Group 2, we have Galway, Dublin, Waterford, Derry and Kilkenny. So how this goes is the top of the table in each group, first place in each group, actually goes through straight to the All-Ireland semi-finals. Second and third place goes into the All-Ireland quarterfinals, and then fourth and fifth is out of the championship. I think both fifth place teams have to face each other in relegation playoff. That still has to be confirmed, but I think that's the way they're going about things. So we'll go group by group in this, Liam. So in Group 1, the games this weekend, Tipperary have a bye this weekend, so they have a rest, obviously. So Cork are playing Limerick in Páirc Uí Rinn on Saturday at 4 p.m. The other game is Clare against Wexford in Zimmerboim Park Isog. I'm saying that name again. Clare against Wexford on Saturday at 2 p.m. That's the other game in Group 1. How do you see these two games going?
I mean, for Cork, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Cork are the best side in the country as we currently speak, and really, I don't think there's a team in the country that can stop them, to be quite honest with you. So I really don't see them having too many issues with Limerick this weekend, and really, they should be winning this championship fairly comprehensively, to be honest with you. I mean, when you have players like Amy O'Connor and when you have Emma Murphy, like they're savage players. McCarthy as well. They're going to take some stopping, to be honest with you. And obviously Aisling Thompson as well, who's a great advocate, I think, more so for camogie than anything else. That, like, whatever she does on the pitch for the rest of her career, I think she'd be a great role model for young girls across the country that'll want to take up camogie over the next number of years, and fair play to her for speaking out over the last number of weeks as well. So yeah, I think they'll have too much for Limerick. Wexford and Clare, obviously, look, it's kind of hard to know how Wexford did do against Kilkenny to a degree, because obviously, and rightly so from the two teams, we don't really know how the game went because they refused to let people see the game for obvious reasons. But judging by the result, they really were second best against Kilkenny. So, and very much off the boil, only scoring 1-6 and conceding 20 points is not the best look. So they'll want to be a good bit better this weekend. Clare, obviously their exit to Cork, especially at home as well in Cusack Park, was obviously, look, they were coming up against an unreal Cork side. Let's not be stupid here, but like they'll have to be much better than that, and they'll want to give a better account of themselves this weekend. I'm going to shade it to Wexford. I just think I feel like they might take a bit more confidence maybe from the fact that they did get to the Leinster final. Clare, I just think that hammering that they took to Cork, they'll put up a better response, and I think they'll put up a bit more of a showing. But I just think Wexford might have more in the tank, and I'm going to go with a Wexford win here.
I'm going to go Cork, obviously self-explanatory to beat Limerick. That should be an easy game for Cork, no doubt about it. And I think Clare might get over the line against Wexford. Like, they have a lot of players in the UL Ashburn Cup winning team as well. And as well as that, they played against a Cork team that are absolutely outstanding at the moment. They haven't conceded a goal all year so far. Obviously, disregarding obviously the controversy and stuff like that with the skirts and shorts, we actually forgot about this. Cork have not conceded a goal this year. They haven't conceded a goal since 2024, which is absolutely outstanding. And it just emphasises the point that Cork are just one of the top, or the top team in the country at this present moment in time. So I think Clare were playing a much more formidable opposition than Wexford were. And that's why I think Clare might just against Wexford at home especially. And then in Group 2, so Waterford have a bye in Group 2 this weekend. So we've Galway against Dublin on Saturday at 4 p.m. This is in Kenny Park in Athenry. And then Derry against Kilkenny on Saturday at 2 p.m. in Owen Beg. Look at this group overall, Liam, and look at the two games there. Galway against Dublin, Derry against Kilkenny, but Waterford to join this. Galway, Dublin, Kilkenny and Waterford all in one group. One of them will go out of the All-Ireland. That's mental when you think about that.
Yeah, it seems unfair, but it's great. It's essentially like a group of debt. Although, gee, poor Derry are getting thrown into that like they did in the football. They're really getting no luck this year at all, are they? Look, I saw Derry against us in the Division 2A final, and look, they tried hard, but they really just couldn't deal with Offaly that day. And some people were probably saying that Derry could have beaten us that day before the game started. But look, I do expect Derry to have it very, very tough this year. And especially given the fact that we've been saying for a while that Kilkenny are in a transitional period, to go and win the Leinster title and the win that they had over Dublin as well, especially away from home as well. I mean, look, they still have their some top class players across the team, the likes of Lory Murphy and Aoife Prendergast, who's still putting in huge performances, Katie Nolan, so Katie Power as well. Like they'll have too much for Derry this weekend, and I think given how they did win the Leinster title as well, I think, and judging by the way the match against Wexford did pan out according to Scorpio as well, I think they will get through this group. Dublin, Galway, it'd be interesting to see the Dublin response after that Kilkenny defeat, to be honest with you. And obviously, look, we know that the dominant story the last number of weeks has been the Scots issue, but I think for Dublin, I feel like it was maybe a missed opportunity against Kilkenny to lose that game as well. Looking back on it, and especially the fact that they beat Kilkenny last year in Croke Park to reach an All-Ireland semi-final, I actually thought they would have taken huge confidence from that. And I don't know whether I did predict them to win Leinster or not, but I certainly thought they might have gotten the better of Kilkenny again. But I suppose no different to the men in Kilkenny. If you poke them, then you're going to unleash a bit of a beast, aren't you? So Kilkenny are never going to go lying down, are they? But it will be interesting to see the response from them this weekend against a tough Galway side. Obviously, reached the Division 1 final. Obviously, were beaten by Cork by 11 points. Was it 21-10? I think the score was on the day. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Galway respond for that. I wouldn't be surprised if this game was a draw, but I just think the Dublin response from the defeat against Kilkenny will need to be absolutely massive. And at the same time, Galway we've said for a while that they are one of the sides that we feel across the country that if anyone's going to stop this Cork team, it's them or Tipperary, and they need to start this weekend with a win because it is a very, very tough group that they are in. I'm gonna go on the fence here. I'm actually gonna say a draw. I don't want to be boring, but I think it might be a draw.
Interesting prediction there. But it goes without saying, I think Kilkenny will beat Derry, and Derry will have a difficult campaign. They've lost a lot of players. They lost the Division 2A final, and now they're in this group against four teams that probably would be, along with Tipperary, the closest to Cork, if any. And that's not a good sign at all from a Derry point of view. And I think they'll get beat by Kilkenny this weekend in big. I'm going to go Galway to beat Dublin. They actually haven't had a game since the Division 1 final against Cork, and hopefully from their point of view they'd want to get back up the horse sooner rather than later. I know Dublin had that game against Kilkenny and they haven't had a game since either, but Galway, a long time without a game, they'd want to get them back up onto form as soon as possible.
It would worry maybe a small bit about rustiness as well. That's the only thing. Yeah, because you haven't played for a while, and ironically for a few other teams as well that we'll get on to later, that could be a thing. It's the beautiful thing, whether having time off, and especially the time off that they have had. Like, when was that league? That league final was a while back, wasn't it? I can't remember. What it was exactly. So
I'd say it was 6 weeks ago.
Something like that, yeah. Like, it could be a great thing for trying to get players right again and getting fitness levels up again and getting a bit of bonding as well. But at the same time, without some bit of a competitive game, it could come back to bite you when you go up against a team that at least had a game in that time, regardless of the result.
Exactly. It should be very interesting to see how it all plays out between Galway and Dublin. Just to mention it as well, the Premier Junior Championship is starting this weekend in the camogie, and that is all one group. So there's no B teams this year. So what's going on there is obviously there's an under-23 competition involved with the likes of Galway, Dublin, Cork, all them counties, Kilkenny as well, are put in the under-23 category competition, and then the A teams with lower level camogie counties have their day out in Sun, and intermediate and junior. Intermediate starts next weekend, but the Premier Junior starts this weekend with the following games. Roscommon are up against it. This is all 6 teams all in one group, so I think the top 2 reach the final or something like that, but it should be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Roscommon play against all these games are 2 p.m. on Saturday. Roscommon playing against Armagh in Lissabult, if I pronounce that correctly. That's 2 p.m. in on Saturday. Then on Saturday, 2 p.m. as well in Knockbridge, we have Louth against Tyrone. And then in Leashire on Moore Park, Port Leash, that's more like it, a bigger ground there. Leash against Wicklow at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So best of luck to all 6 of those camogie Premier Junior sides. We will move on to the football now, and there are some very interesting games in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. There's no Tatham Cup this weekend, so these are the only 4 senior games, and they're all on Saturday. We'll start off with the main one, Donegal against Tyrone in Ballybough on Saturday at 7 p.m. This is live on GA+. This is, like, Donegal won the Ulster title and deservedly so. Very good win for them. Tyrone, funnily enough though, Liam, I do think Tyrone are moving along very, very nicely indeed. They tested Armagh all the way, and obviously a few bits at grain of rice, as Paddy O'Shea would usually say, obviously, when he was Westmeath manager, of course, that legendary quote. And Tyrone could have gone over the line against Armagh. This is a very, very interesting game to call. What are you expecting out of this?
Arguably, Tyrone are probably the best ever side to go down from Division 1, to be honest with you. Like, to go down with 7 points is outrageous. To destroy Dublin on the final day and to go down just feels wrong, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, arguably from a spectacle perspective, from a neutral perspective, obviously I know you being from Cork, the Meath game will be the most important game to you this weekend, but from a neutral's perspective, this is the biggest game of the weekend, and this is once again a game which will be quite fitting to be either an Ulster or an All-Ireland final, to be honest with you. The highs of winning an Ulster final to now having to focus on delivering in the group phase is going to be a major, major challenge for Donegal. We saw it last year. They went down to Cork and they got bet. How that game wasn't on TV, we're still talking about a year later. It should have been on TV that day. It was a massive, massive shock to go down to Páirc Uí Rinn to taste defeat there. And for their first game, Donegal, for their first game here to be against an Ulster side as well is quite nice too, I think. It's a huge rivalry. And listening to Nigel Dunn this morning on the RT podcast, the weather is meant to be bad this weekend. So this brings on its own type of challenge. Will it be a free-flowing game of football, or will it revert back to type that we've seen over the years? I certainly hope it doesn't, because Jesus, the football over the last number of years has been dreadful. But this is the big game on Saturday night. Tyrone will want to put behind them the Armagh defeat and aim to take down one of the favourites for the All-Ireland. Given how Galway lost at home to Dublin last weekend as well, Tyrone can absolutely take a lot of spark from that as well, given that they probably will be underdogs this weekend. And like I mentioned about Donegal going to Cork last year, was a major, major shock. They need to not do that again this year. Given a team, say, you look at the group stage that they're in, a team like Mayo have now lost to Cavan and will need to do their thing that they usually do every year to save their season. So Jim McGuinness needs to be aware of that threat. But I think this is a strong, strong Donegal side. I mean, their fitness level as proven in the Ulster final are exceptional. And their skill as well. If with the weather being crap, as mentioned, 2 pointers potentially with, say, if there's a big wind advantage or whatever, it could be pivotal. And when you've got Darragh O'Bweel, who's been kicking over 2 pointers all year, I mean, Michael Murphy he had the hand of God the last day with that one-handed catch. I still don't know how he did it, to be honest with you. You've Paddy McBrearty there, the O'Donnells, etc. Then I think that doesn't really bode well for Tyrone. And let's not forget, Tyrone on 2 separate occasions the last day, where was it 4 or 5 points down to Armagh as well. They had to stage big comebacks, which they are capable of doing. One major factor, I know he hasn't really featured a lot this year, but Cathal McShane no longer being in the panel is a massive, massive blow, I think, for Tyrone. Just even for someone of his, in a way, aura to be on the pitch. You know, he's a big reason why they won the All-Ireland in 2021. He's a terrific, terrific footballer. For him to not be in the panel anymore, I think is tough on him, or tough on Tyrone anyway. I am going to shade it to Donegal. I know Tyrone had a great win over them in the league, but I think this is a different Donegal. You could see it from Jim McGuinness. He's not worried one bit about how the league has gone for him. It's all about the championship. And given how they did win the game against Armagh as well, Tyrone haven't had a game since that Armagh game either. I think Donegal might just have enough for them on Saturday night. It's home advantage as well. But I am expecting a cracker of a game. We've had some unbelievable games in the Ulster Championship this year, and I'm expecting nothing less this weekend from 2 Ulster teams.
Exactly, so it should be a very interesting game. A few comments coming in here. Sean O'Malley saying Tyrone have had a good few weeks off to learn from what went wrong against Armagh. They were a bit passive in that game, where they have the players to be more aggressive, especially in midfield. And he added another comment in here. McGuinness has a great record against Tyrone. Gavin has a comment in here. I think Cavan proved last week that they are better than that Tyrone performance. That's obviously referencing the Ulster Championship game between the two sides. But still, Tyrone put it up to Armagh and have been waiting in the long grass. Tyrone, Donegal, possibly a draw. Brian has commented here. Donegal are a lot stronger than last year. What impresses me about Donegal is their bench. Michael Murphy had one of the games of his life in the Ulster final. Sean, I don't think Colin McShane is as big a loss. Great player, but wasn't the same since his injury. Donegal lost to Cork last year in the groups, and I think Donegal could do one slip up this year in a similar way. And Brian finally here says Donegal don't lose too often at home. You would expect them to win. And that's the thing as well. Cavan beating Mayo last weekend, that is going to cause rifts around this group as well. Because like if Donegal lose this game against Tyrone, play devil's advocate for a bit, Tyrone and Cavan will both be on 2 points. Tyrone play against Mayo and Cavan play against Donegal. Cavan are playing Donegal in Kingspan Breffni at home. Tyrone are playing Mayo at home in Armagh. There could easily be a situation where Tyrone and Cavan win their second games too. So that might be a dangerous thing for Donegal to look at.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. And then you're coming up against a Mayo side on the final day who we've seen Mayo over the last 10, 15 years. They do the daftest things when games are on the line. I mean, how many times over the years should they have been knocked out by the likes of a Derry or the likes of a Cork, or even Clare gave them a huge battle years ago. I remember down in Ennis, like just games where they should be losing them and then they somehow crawl their way to getting to the next stage. And it could be another one of those games again this year if Donegal don't take care of business. But I do think, though, that Jim McGuinness has inherited in a really, really strong Donegal panel, and they have a winning mentality. They do. Like, I mean, they've won the last 2 Ulster titles and in very, very dramatic fashion as well. And the one this year, they've beaten the All-Ireland champions. So they've proven that they can absolutely go all the way this year. But like I said, they have to be wary. Like you said, the losing to Cork last year, Cavan, that result against Mayo, which in hindsight now, is it really that big of a surprise that they did beat Mayo? It's a huge game for them, and they have to have their absolute total focus on just this game, to be honest with you. They can't lose focus for any split of a second. And given the talent that Tyrone have in attack as well, like that we all know about, they really, really need to be switched on for the full 70 minutes. Like you saw the way Armagh were able to pick off a couple of scores there 2 weeks ago, and at times it felt maybe a bit easy for them, and it felt like Donegal maybe weren't pressing them high enough at times. So they're going to have to improve on that aspect this weekend. They have the attacking talent, and they're going to need their defense to be ultra strong as well, and especially in wet, slippery conditions as well. If the weather goes the way we're expecting it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll probably go for Donegal to win this game as well, even though I do think Tyrone are improving. Brian will comment in here. You would not be surprised if they had to beat Donegal to go through. That's obviously referencing Mayo and their loss against Cavan. So yeah, it should be very interesting to see all that unfold. But we're both predicting a Donegal win in Group 1 to open their All-Ireland group campaign. Look at the other game, and this is in Group 4, the group of death, obviously, Armagh against Derry on Saturday at 5 p.m. Comedically, really, this game is not shown anywhere. It's not shown on RT, and it's not shown on GA+. First of all, Liam, why is this game not being shown?
The goings-ons with RTE and GA Plus is a strange one, and should be probably in our history books in 20-30 years time, to be honest with you. I think it needs to be studied to not have the All-Ireland champions, especially after their epic encounter with Donegal, not being shown this weekend is a bit mad, to be honest with you. Everyone would like to see the response from McGeeney's side. Yeah, no, I don't understand it either, to be honest. It makes no sense to me. But look, regardless, let's be honest, Armagh will have plenty more games that'll be on TV this year. So, and in a way, the only thing I could say to maybe defend this is I don't think this will be a game that'll be close. I'll be frank and honest with you now. I think this is going to be a long number of weeks for Derry. By far the weakest side in the group of death, dare I say it. They, first of all, haven't played. You referenced there about, say, Galway not playing a game in camogie since that league final. this is the same thing for Derry. They haven't played since the first weekend in April. Like the first weekend of April was the league hurling finals. They haven't played since then, which is absolutely incredible, to be honest with you. So long ago that they'd have had time to reset absolutely and look over some previous results that they did have in the league, because they haven't won a game this year. Rustiness will be there, if we're going to be honest with you. And against a side like Armagh, who've come off the back of 3 solid Ulster games against Antrim, Tyrone and Donegal, I could smell a hammering this weekend. McGeeney will be desperate to put that defeat to Donegal behind him and get off the mark, especially with Galway losing ground last weekend. This is a big chance for Armagh to regain some form with a trip they're going to Croke Park, I believe, aren't they? So they'll, with big games coming up like that. These sides have been levels apart in the last 2 games they've met against each other as well. Armagh were on another level last season, which took the whole country nearly by surprise, more so just by how poor Derry were, to be honest with you, than how good really Armagh were and how much better they were going to get. And I watched their final round league game, and my God, the stark contrast was frightening. I know people say in the end it was a dead rubber, but by God, it was a hammering beyond belief. Like, I know they still have some top class players, Derry do, absolutely, and I think they will be okay in the next couple of years. They've some good young players coming through, but Derry are just nowhere near the level they were 2-3 years ago. And Armagh, for me, would probably win this by a good 15-20 points. I'd be shocked if Derry won this game, and I mean shocked.
A few comments coming in here. Gavin does agree with you. Cavan and Dublin benefited from the break, but at least they've shown some bit of form. Derry haven't shown us anything over the year. Although Sean O'Malley does disagree with you, don't write off Derry. Even though they're a basket case, they still have great quality. But remember when Mayo ambushed Kerry and Killarney 2 years ago after a long spell off? Respond.
Thanks, Sean. No, and look, he is right. Having a bit of time off can absolutely help a side. But the thing is, Mayo do daft things. I don't think Derry will do as daft things as Mayo. I said it to my friend from Mayo. Mayo are the type of team that will beat Kerry, they'll beat Galway, they'll beat Donegal, Dublin to reach the All-Ireland final, but then, ironically, they'll lose to Offaly. Do you know what I mean? They're just that county who do the maddest things, and winning away to Kerry, like they did a couple of years ago, are one of those mad things. I don't think Derry are that team, and I just think their confidence just seems so low on the ground. And this is the thing, it's kind of hard to even judge Derry in a way, because they haven't played a game in so long, and that was the only championship game that they have played this year, where they pretty much were very much off the boil against Donegal as well. Donegal were, I think I said it at the time on James's podcast, I think Donegal were probably in second gear that day. They didn't have to do much to beat Derry. So I don't know. And I think just with the game being in the Athletic grounds as well, Armagh, very good there. And yeah, no, I just fear for Derry. They're not the team they used to be. They've had a terrible 12 months or so. They've lost most of their games. Good man, Sean. We'll put respect to that. But yeah, no, I just worry for them. It's been a tough year for them so far, and given the talent that Armagh have as well, and really Armagh could easily be sitting here now as the Ulster champions. They're still one of the favourites to win the All-Ireland again. They could easily go back to back. Then yeah, I just think they'll want to get off on the right foot, and I just think with that defeat for Galway last weekend as well, they'll be extra motivated to get them potentially knocked out of the championship too.
Yeah, exactly. It should be very interesting to see how it does all play out. I think Armagh will win the game. Not as comprehensively as Liam is saying, though, but we'll have to see what happens this Saturday. Obviously, the game that is shown on GA Plus is Louth against Monaghan in St. Conleth's Park in Newbridge in Group 3 on Saturday at 4:45 p.m. The reason is, obviously, it's St. Conleth's Park, Newbridge. I think most people know this. Louth don't have a venue that is suitable to host an All-Ireland Senior Football Championship group game. That's the reason why it's on in Newbridge. And it's not in Inniskeen either, because Inniskeen is in Monaghan. So that is the reason why they don't want to have a home game in Monaghan, if that makes sense. But what I expect out of this game, Liam, Louth, obviously Leinster champions for the first time since 1957. Unbelievable achievement. Monaghan, though, have been going pretty well this year. So it should be an interesting tie, this one.
Yeah, generally, given how one-sided most of last weekend's games felt, this is a different kind of weekend set of games, isn't it? Like, we're kind of debating about Donegal, Tyrone, probably will debate about Meath and Cork. Obviously, Armagh, Derry probably is, you feel like the one game that you feel like Armagh will win. But then again, look, as Sean said there, Mayo ambush Kerry a couple of years ago, maybe Derry could do the same thing. But this could be a game that could be won by either side, and you wouldn't rule out a draw, to be honest with you. The game being in Collins Park obviously doesn't help Louth, given that this is their so-called home game. But I also feel that the momentum that they're going to take from this is absolutely massive. To win Leinster, to reach an All-Ireland under-20 final, reach the Leinster minor final, the county at the minute is on a massive wave of success and drive. Their players are performing to a big level as we speak. I mean, I thought Craig Lennon was absolutely superb in Croke Park. He was the one who kind of got them back into the game when they looked to be down and out, especially with that goal, which might go down as goal of the year at the end of the year. You never know. Just with even the significance of when that did happen. Sam Mulroy dictated the game. I thought Conor Grimes was a driving force on the ball. Ryan Burns finished with 1-3. And now this is another big challenge ahead of them this weekend. And listen, I rank Monaghan very highly in the pecking order. And to me, had they managed to get over the line and complete the remarkable comeback over Donegal in the Ulster quarter-final, because they are a solid team with good players and play some very attractive football, I would not have been shocked at all. If the likes of Desi Ward, Michael Bannigan, Conor McCarthy can have solid games, then Monaghan have a great chance of winning this game. They've also had time to reflect on that Donegal game. They haven't had a game since then. I just feel with the momentum, I can't say that word, with the momentum behind them, Louth just might get the job done here. They're riding a wave, and we've also seen how they can see games out a lot stronger kind of over the last year or two than they had been in the past. We saw them against Cork last summer, Kildare and Meath in the Leinster Championship. So I don't see why they can't get a win here. It's going to be tough, and I could look ridiculous on Saturday evening, but I do feel Louth could pull off another major victory. And that's nothing against Monaghan. I think Monaghan are a top-class team, and they've performed extremely, extremely well this year. But I just think the momentum that's behind and the excitement behind Brennan's side, I'm going to go with a Louth win.
Interesting. It's a very tough one to call. It is, like, again, it could be a draw. Really could be. This might be the card I'm going with defence, and I'm going a draw. That would still be a great result for Louth to win Leinster. Yeah, to get a draw against a team that won Division 2, it'd be a terrific result. It would, and it's so difficult to predict because Louth are the crest of a wave at the moment. Monaghan have performed well, even with the loss in the semi-final to Donegal. They didn't get battered. Like, they were very, very close in that Ulster semi-final against one of the All-Ireland favourites. They're motoring on as well. Such a difficult game to call. I'm going to play my draw card. I'm going to go for draw, sitting on the fence for this one, but it is going to be a very interesting game, and no doubt about it. Gavin saying here, it was a draw last year, actually, so you never know. Yeah, true. Ian Clonus. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but it is going to be a very interesting game. But I'm going draw, Liam's going Louth. We'll have to see what happens. The final All-Ireland Senior Football Championship game this weekend, it is in Group 2 with obviously Kerry beating Roscommon in the group last week. Meath against Cork in Partalton and Navan on Saturday at 3 p.m. I am going to this game as well. And if you haven't checked it out already, there is a preview on the We Are Me podcast. So I joined Davy Rispin this week from the Cork side to discuss this game. It's the second time I was on that podcast. Obviously, I was there during the league campaign as well. Davey, great guy. Check it out if you haven't already. That preview, we go in full depth into that game. But in terms of this game, this is, again, as me and Davey discussed during the week, it's such a difficult one to call because arguably both sides are on the crest of a wave at the moment. Meath, I know they lost to Louth, agonisingly so, but they beat Dublin. They have done brilliant in the league and the championship. Cork, similarly, they probably should have beaten Kerry in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. And since they have had that holiday in Portugal, they've always come back nearly a complete team. They beat Louth, they beat Cavan, which is probably lost in the daylight considering Cavan beat Mayo, Louth won Leinster. Cork beat both those sides in the league. So this is a very, very interesting game to call.
Yeah, it'd be a massive game in terms of response to both these teams' exits from their respective provincial championships. Meath took down the Giants, but fell to their neighbours. So-called neighbour. Can we call them neighbour? Yeah, we can call them neighbours. Of course we can. And the noisy neighbours. But now we'll be aiming to put that to one side and focus on the game in hand. Here is a huge game because there was a real sense that second place could be well up for grabs here. Look, I think it goes without saying, Kerry should top the group, really. They'll more than likely end up in the group, and I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. But for Cork and Meath and Roscommon, it's a real toss of a coin, really, to see who could go through in second place. Cork, like you said, they gave a terrific display against Kerry, barring the dreadful start to the game. Their 2-pointed kickers, particularly in the weather that they had to kick them as well, was fantastic. And now Cleary has had time to catch a breath. He's had a time to analyze that game as well, see what went wrong, see what they can learn from it. They'll take big confidence from that game. But their challenge now is getting themselves up for this game like they do with Kerry every year. That's the only... Because Cork do absolutely have the ability, but we saw it in games like Louth last year, how much their levels can drop all of a sudden. So going to Navan, which, look, it is a very, very tricky ground to go to, and having to do with their forwards. Morris is back, Frayne, Costello, he's a terrific footballer. It's a big ask, and I still feel Cork have some issues in the full back line. Look, you know more than me. You've been to more of the games this year.
And interesting to note as well, Liam Shaw Brady suspended for this game.
Yeah. So if allowing Meath to get chances for 2-pointers or behind for goals or chances to run at them, then they could be in big trouble at the weekend, particularly if they can get a full house in Navan as well, because look, Meath brought 20,000, 30,000 supporters to Croke Park. They're not obviously going to bring that number this weekend, but you'd hope that they would bring some bit of a number, because Meath are a good football team. Like they are. They have some terrific footballers. They play some nice football. And look, they'll be looking back on regret not winning the Leinster title, if we're going to be frank and honest about it now. They'll be devastated not to have gotten over the line there. But this could be the kickstart that they need to their season again. I don't see them beating Kerry, but there's absolutely no reason to suggest they couldn't beat Roscommon again this year. I'd nearly be tempted to go on the fence again with this game, potentially. It does depend on maybe if there's a wind advantage as well, because we've seen Meath. There's kind of two sides to Meath. There's the Meath that were winning by 12 points or so against Dublin in Portlaoise, but there's also the Meath that were losing by 10 points to Offaly in Navan in the quarterfinals and had to stage a massive comeback in the second half. There's nearly two Meaths, to be honest with you. And there's also the Meath that dominated a lot of the early play against Louth, but let them in for... I mean, look, I know Craig Glenn's goal was a great goal and everything, but Louth also won a penalty. Just goals that they really, really could have avoided. And Craig Glennon kind of got through their defence in a way a small tad bit too easily. So, yeah. See, Cork also have the attack that can hurt Meath as well. Their attack is absolutely fantastic. We saw it throughout the league, some of the goals that they got as well. And they beat Meath as well. In the league as well, which is a crucial factor here. So I was thinking maybe Meath earlier, but when I'm kind of thinking of it now, I'm tempted to kind of sit on the fence again. I don't know why. It's a real tough one to call, because I'm really interested to see what the response is from both teams, and I want both teams to just go hammer and tongs at it. Kind of like what we saw from them 20, 30 years ago when there was the big rivalry that they had back in the day. I'm gonna sit on the fence again. I'm gonna go a draw. But I just hope that we do get a good response from both teams, even if one of them was to lose it, and maybe more so maybe from a Cork perspective, just because they're traveling. I just hope that they perform to the same levels that they have against Kerry over the last number of years and raise their games for games like that. Because if they were to go there kind of like they did against Louth last year, then they'll have no chance.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough one to call. I'd probably edge just maybe the biases, but I'd edge Cork maybe slightly by a point. But I think I could see Meath winning by a point as well. It's such a tight one to call. Patrick saying here, our forwards need to step up again besides Hurley. In all fairness, Patrick, I think the main forwards have been Chris O'Jones, Sean McDonagh, Mark Cronin. I think those guys have been the main guys. And Brian O'Driscoll, he's not a forward, but the 2-pointers he's getting, absolutely outstanding.
Been superb, yeah.
He's been brilliant, and he's definitely stood up in terms of the new rules and everything like that. He's done absolutely brilliantly, no doubt about it. We'll be interested to see who comes in for Sean Brady. I'd suspect it'll be Mar Shanley, but we'll have to see on Saturday, obviously, when John Cleary leaves the team on Friday. But I was speaking to John Cleary for the Southern Star this week, and he's positive enough about it. He says it's a tough game, obviously, pretty standard, but at the same time, he was saying that you wouldn't play these games unless you didn't have that challenge. So, like, they're ready to go. They are ready to go, these Cork players. I'm sure Meath are as well. I have a bone to pick with one of the comments in here. Cork tend to get travel sick. Kevin, they beat Cavan in the league. They beat Meath. They went up to Navan. Actually, their last 2 visits to Navan, stop for you. They actually won both those games against Meath in the league and Louth in the championship. So I don't get what the travel sick comment is. I really don't, to be honest with you.
But, seem to love that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's going to be a tight game. Liam says a draw. I'm going Cork, but ever so slightly. But we'll have to see what happens, obviously. We'll preview this game, I suppose, but it's on a Wednesday. Why? But anyway, Tyrone against Louth in the All-Ireland Under-20 football final. I think this is on the Box and Athletic Grounds in Armagh at 7:30 on TG Car. On a Wednesday, Liam, terrible for promotion, terrible for the players themselves, who will have jobs during the week, obviously, who will have college during the week, possibly, who will have school during the week, some of them. Why are you playing this on Wednesday? It's a brilliant under-20 final between two sides that have done well up until this decider. Obviously, Louth beating Mayo in the semi-final, Tyrone beating Kerry. But I will put up stats and scores on this on my own Instagram page later on the week, or later on early next week. But it's terrible, really, that this game is on a Wednesday. What does this do for the promotion?
It's completely unfair, I think, to be honest with you. Like Kilkenny Tipperary is on at 3 p.m. on Saturday the 31st. A perfect time. And as well as that, there's Kilkenny and Tip won't be playing that weekend as well in senior hurling, so it suits down to the ground. Surely they could have found some weekend that suits both Tyrone and Louth to play this final a Wednesday evening. Look, we're not stupid either. Whoever wins this will want to go on a massive piss up too. Let's be honest about it. They don't want to be going to work the next day or school the next day or college the next day. College is mostly done for most people now, but I think it's extremely, extremely unfair. Whoever schedules these games needs a dose of reality. It's really, really not fair on these young lads. And yeah, to schedule the games midweek. Yeah, exactly. To schedule the games midweek, it makes no sense, to be honest. And particularly the fact that this is going to be, I think this is going to be a very, very good final. Now, I do think the Louth bubble will be burst again after what happened Monday. Sorry, lads, had to get it in. But I think Tyrone, look, they are the strongest. I think they're still the strongest side at under 20 level in the country. I saw their game against Kerry. Kerry absolutely had their chances to win the game, but I think as Tomas O'Shea kind of referenced, Tyrone are just operating on another level at the moment, and they will be a team to look out for over the next number of years in the All-Ireland series. You absolutely wouldn't be writing them off for the moment, anyways. That's for sure. But yeah, I just think with the players that they do possess at the moment, the likes of Owen McCollum, Rory McCull, I hope I pronounced that name right. McGill, how do you say it?
McElhone.
Yeah, sorry, tongue twister there. But you have players like that who I actually rated to be the young footballer of the year. When you've Shea McDermott, Roy McCullough, they have some terrific footballers in their team, and they play a nice standard. They play some nice football. Obviously, the Ulster final was not a great game, but they got the job done. They showed that they could get over the line in a tight game like that, and their fitness levels to get over the line in extra time as well. So I just think this is maybe a step too far for Louth. It'd be great if they did win the All-Ireland, and it would be an upset, if we're going to be honest with you, to beat this Tyrone team. But I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to favour Tyrone to maybe win by 5 or 6 points. I just think they'll have a bit more experience on the day. And look, Louth at times struggled against Mayo as well. They conceded 17 points, and they hit a few bad wides. I know there was a bit of a wind as well on that day, but I am going to go with Tyrone. I think they'll get the job done. But again, like you said, this game being on a Wednesday night, when I saw this, I couldn't quite believe it. I think it's a shocking decision.
One of the comments actually said there that the under-20 final is on because of the 60-hour rule or something like that. I'm just looking for the comment in here. Being played on Wednesday because Tyrone and Louth have players involved in senior panels, and the 60-hour rule means they can't be involved in both panels. I suppose so, but like then again, like there needs to be more spaced out between senior games and under 20 games. It's just like this is an All-Ireland final. It's great for both counties, especially now being in this situation.
Yeah,
it's just a disrespect, in my opinion, for these sorts of players. I do think Tyrone will win the game, but it should be very interesting to see how it all plays out. I do think Tyrone will get out of the line, but Louth have had a great season regardless. Kevin is responding here to my comment about Cork being travel sick, apparently. Cork did struggle away in the league to both Down and Monaghan. Well, against Down, the thing was I thought we were the better team. If you were at the game, we were the better team against Down. And the game swung at a decision. Paul Walsh was harshly done by for apparent barging, which I couldn't see where the barging was, and then Down went out the other end and got a goal, and that changed the complexion of the game. So I disagree with you on the Down game. Monaghan, we dominated the midfield. We just could see the 3 avoidable goals, I would say, in the first half. But you can't just base the argument on 2 games. We then rectified those wrongdoings, and then we beat Cavan. So like you can't say we travel sick every single game. Will be a terrible turnout. That's obviously for the under 20 final, as Sean says there. It probably will be, which is a shame. But we'll finish off the show with the LGFA. There are 2 LGFA provincial finals happening this weekend, and that is Mayo against Galway in Hastings Insurance, McHale Park in Castlebar on Sunday at 1 p.m. That's the Connacht LGFA final, and the Munster LGFA final is between Kerry and Waterford. This is on Mallow on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. That's all in Cork. For anybody that doesn't know where Mallow is, that's on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. What do you expect out of these 2 provincial finals teams? I suppose Mayo or Galway to beat Mayo is probably a slam dunk considering the form of both sides. Kerry Waterford, I have a feeling Waterford could really put it up to Kerry here.
Yeah, I really can't see Mayo getting much from this game, I'll be honest with you. I think Galway are top class side and they were the better of the 2 sides when they met recently, albeit it was essentially was a dead rubber. But they won the last time without Roisin Leonard. You think Lucy's Ward was only a sub. The DeVilly sisters didn't feature, and they still got the job done very comprehensively. They're a strong side, and I just don't think Mayo will have enough to sustain the Galway threat. They were up by 10 at half time the last day. I don't think Mayo will be able to deal with Galway here, and I think they should run out comfortable enough winners. For Kerry and Waterford, listen, Kerry are the best side in the country currently, given the results over the last while, and obviously winning the All-Ireland last year. And whilst I did believe this would be the finale, Waterford, I still think they do have a huge battle ahead of them. Now, they did run them extremely close the last time out. They only lost by a point, and they still have some fantastic players in their panel as well. You have Kellyanne Hogan and Lory McGregor, the big standout names, in my opinion. But I just think with this being in a final, I think Kerry will raise their level a small bit. And I think it is still a massive task for Waterford to come out on top. If there is anyone in Munster that is going to beat Kerry, it is Waterford. That in my opinion. But I just think Kerry are still a very, very, very strong team. And I still think the only sides that will beat them or have a chance of beating them this year are Armagh and possibly Galway or Dublin. But I think Kerry should have enough to get over the line against Waterford. But at the same time, stranger things have happened. Ducks have been broken over the last while in sport. So Waterford could absolutely take down the kingdom. But I just don't see it happening this weekend.
I think Galway will beat Mayo. That's probably obvious enough. Mayo are in terrible form at the moment, other than beating Antrim in the Connacht Championship. But I think Galway are just in brilliant form at the moment and will get over the line there. I'm going to go for a shock, but I think Waterford will beat Kerry this weekend. I like the look of what Tomas Macasir is doing with this Waterford team. They have been on an upward trajectory for a while now, and they lost narrowly to Kerry in the league. They also lost by a point in the Munster Championship as well. That's an indication they're getting closer and closer. I think Waterford could do it. I genuinely think Waterford could win the Munster LGFA Championship this weekend, but that is my shot prediction. We'll have to see what happens this weekend. But that brings an end to the show this weekend on 1 hour and nearly 55 minutes, which is absolutely incredible time for a podcast indeed. Thanks to Liam for coming on to the show. Thanks to Capture Legs for sponsoring tonight's show once again, like they always do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Read the bell for any notifications on the next podcast. And obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow Spotify, all that. Follow Liam on Instagram and all the platforms in that as well. And until next week, we'll see you then. Take care, enjoy the games of the weekend, and take care.